Good morning everyone. I'm just doing, it's now Saturday morning. I'm doing a last bit of revision before the big day. This is one last bit of revision to do, and then I'm heading off for the conference, for the second day of the conference. Sitting here in Miles' house. Now, the base project headquarters, as you see, is it's a strange place actually, because it's both a home for Miles and his guests, and a working studio and production centre, and I think it's primarily the latter. You see right here this is sort of the lounge, the TV set, and there's chairs. There's also that recorder, and there's all that over there. Behind all this is where you often see Miles in front of his webcam when he does his fast blast and things like that. Through this window is the conservatory, where he also does a lot of broadcasting. Really, the sort of living accommodation attributes, such as, like I say, chairs, tables, kitchen furniture, things like that, is kind of shoved in between everything else. Really, unless something is a box of electronics with wires and things like that, it really looks totally out of place. So an odd location. This, it's not a home. It is a home, but it's also like I say, it's a studio and production centre primarily, and a home second. But Miles is happy here. I think he sort of lives for this sort of thing. Okay, so I just got one. I'm going through my notes one last time. I got a few written notes to help me during my talk, but I'm not going to dictate. I'm going to ad lib. People sit there reading notes. It's a bad way to do a presentation, just to stand there reading notes. Yeah, once more, I'll try and assimilate as much information as I can, and then the die is cast. I'm heading to the Barge for day number 2, Saturday. This is the day where I got to speak. As you can see, the weather is not as nice as it was. In fact, it's raining, which is a shame. But well, yeah, you can't have it all. I mean, this is Britain after all. So just make the most of it. I think eat our dinner indoors. You can see the hills there in the distance. The cloud's not that low. It might cheer up later on. Okay, we've got Dave Hodrian there, see? He's arrived. Another big famous bald guy. And I'm here with Mark and Colin. We sort of sit in the back row now, because Miles complained because I'm so tall, my head was in shot when I was near the front. So yeah, and Colin's quite tall as well, and so we're at the back now like naughty schoolboys. But at least if I get drowsy and drop off, the speaker can't see me. Here we go. We're going to start in a minute. Day 2. I'm speaking. I'm the speaker. It's Dave, it's Mike Oram, and there's me. I'm nervous, but I'll feel great when it's all over. Okay, ladies and gents, we just seen Dave Hodrian. I'm outside the venue at the moment. I actually offered my help to put the dinner tables out, but apparently they have enough big, strong people to do it, which is cool. Dave Hodrian was talking about screen memories. This is something that is a recurring feature of UFO alien contacts, definitely. And he mentioned certain films, some very good films actually, well-researched movies like Steven Spielberg presents Taken. That is a good 10-part miniseries. Also, The Fourth Kind, which is a horror movie about alien abduction, involves a permanent disappearance resulting from abduction, which I'd like to say is not true, but these things do happen. In fact, I reviewed that film, if you remember, and I thought it was real. I actually thought it was real. But he mentions how people who have experiences, sometimes they see other objects other than the aliens and aliens' craft, and they perceive other objects. Usually it's familiar things. It could be animals. Owls are very common. Sometimes other animals. Mike Oram, who's speaking next, he saw a tiger as a screen memory. But there's also humans. Sometimes the aliens appear as humans. Usually it's figures of authority like doctors, policemen, soldiers, and suited guys. Maybe explain some of the Men in Black encounters. There are also pilots. Now, the pilot sightings often are associated with aircraft, which are alien craft in disguise. And Ellis Taylor, of course, is a very, very famous example of this, who's actually here at the moment. He's not around here, because he encountered beings with which look like a helicopter, and humans, normal human pilots. Hello, how are you? And sometimes the pilots in the aircraft look anachronistic. For example, you can see like a World War I biplane with guys with old-fashioned pilots' gears on, like sheepskin jackets and leather hoods with goggles, the traditional pilot gear. Spiders, you may have seen the shows that Dave's done with Tina. She's afraid of spiders and she perceives spiders. There's also even fictional characters like Elmer Fudd and Casper the Friendly Ghost, I suppose, because they look a bit alien, don't they? Pirates. And there's also the possibility that some of these are actually real humans, in a sense, MyLabs. They're where some people are abducted by state actors, human and corporate state and corporate actors, in the sense of MyLabs. Some people even wrongly claim that explains the entire phenomenon. It doesn't. But sometimes there's a combination. There's aliens with humans. It's really strange, isn't it? And there's clowns. Clowns are very common too. And the question is, what's causing them? Some people claim that it's a natural part of our mind, our reaction to the alien beings, and others say that it's induced by the aliens themselves, or even that the aliens actually do physically shapeshift like the reptilians do. But Dave thinks, and I think as well, the most likely thing is that the aliens are doing this either to prevent us panicking, to keep things familiar as a way of reassuring us and controlling our reaction when they appear, or as their part of their covert nature, or maybe there's another motive connected to their agenda, which is why they have to appear like that. Very interesting. Dave is inventing a new card game called UFO Wave, and I'll say more about that later. But very interesting indeed, and great to see Dave again. We're all just sitting out here at the moment, as you can see, waiting to have our lunch. And here's my lunch. I'll tell you what, the food here is brilliant. Oh, he's got a ham. Yeah, this is my mixed cheese. Ploughman's. You can get ham as well, or anything. The food here has been absolutely fantastic, I must say. They've done a really, really great job.
Hello, I'm here at the base of the Barge 2021 with Dave Hogan. He's just done a very interesting talk on screen memories. You alright? How you doing, Dave?
Good, thanks. Yeah, really good. It's my first time here at the Barge, and really enjoying it. Lovely.
Oh, it's a lovely place.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't been here before.
Yeah.
All the UFO people congregate here. Which I'm interested in playing your card game as well.
Yeah. I've got a card game launching at the end of this month themed on UFOs called UFO Wave.
Brilliant, mate. Well, it's been good to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Take care. I'll see you again soon. It's lovely to get out and about.
It is, yeah. First actual conference.
We've done so much online. Freedom. I've done so much online. I interviewed you, online. But God, I'm finishing lunch. This is like a breath of fresh air.
It's been a crazy time, hasn't it? And it's very nice to kind of get back to normality on some form of it.
Yeah, we're going to start getting Michael Rump, then me as the next speaker. So I've got to get ready for that. So thanks, Neil, for filming.
Okay, Dave. Sorry, Ben.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
I'll wake up in a minute.
I'll just stop it. Counting down now to my talk. Assuming it all works with Mike Oram, I'll be on in half an hour. They're about to start again. This is the old sculpture of the crop circle. I like that one. Oh, I've also seen Zythantiops. Yes, he exists. He came up and introduced himself, and he thought, "Oh, hello, Ben." I thought he talked to me like he knew me, and I didn't recognise him. And he said, he gave his name. I said, "Oh, I'm Zythantiops." I said, "Oh, right, hello." I said, "Yeah." Honestly, I'm just going to show you a bit of the campsite because. Hey guys, how you doing? Oh yeah, I am. I'm doing my little video. That's right. It'll be on my channel. Yeah, I'm just because there's loads of lovely people here. It's really nice to see people. If you want to be on, if you want to do Vox Populi, all right. And I'll do one of those later, probably tomorrow, when people have seen everything really. But you can see here. If you want to go camping, this is a wonderful campsite. I've stayed here a couple of times. It was actually closed down and turned into pasture land for a while, but it has been returned as a proper campsite, and it's definitely worth going to. Really is. Just a thing for your kids there. You can bring a camper van or a car, either whatever you like. Or I know some people sleep in their cars or tents. I came with a tent, so that's nice. I think I'll probably have a big camper van like that, but there's somebody's converted a lorry there, you see, and there's going to be a band later in that marquee, so great stuff. So I'm back in the Barge beer garden right now. Mike Orham's doing his talk. I'm not listening to it though because I've just looked at the schedule. There's actually no break between me and Mike Orham. There's like a 3 minutes, which is basically what it takes to get me set up. So I'm just taking one more look through my notes, checking my recorder works. I'm using this recorder like I did for, this on 5, 6, that's 5. I did this, of course you recognise this recorder from Rawcon, the last time I got out and about. I'm going to be doing an audio recording of my talk, which you, hopefully, if it works, will be hearing in a minute. But I'm now sort of simply getting ready for the off. Basically, as soon as Mike comes off the line, I'm up on stage, and then that's it. So, this is it. There's no going back.
Right then, just wait for the final people to get their drinks from the bar, cups of tea, much needed. If you moved your car, thank you so much. Like, I'm not being a nag, it's the pub, they've been so good to us and we do want to come back, so we don't want to be a rogue bunch of rebels and troublemakers. God forbid we think differently, but we've still got manners, so we've moved our car, so thank you very much. So, we are now progressing well through the day. Time flies and you're having fun. I mentioned yesterday when you're on a high vibration and really enjoying yourself, time goes like this. When you're low vibration, time drags like this. That's certainly not the case today. It certainly won't be the case with this speaker here. Ben was one of the first people I met when I started going to alternative conferences, along with the lovely Colin Wolford, Mark, Tony Chin, and Miles Johnston himself. First time I met Miles, I was like, whoa, who's this dude? And now I'm working with him, which is great. And introducing Ben, which is even better. Ben's a lovely guy. He comes from a research base from a variety of different subjects on the alternative scene. Today he's going to be talking about current events and where we're going. Now if that's not pertinent, I don't know what is. He's going to give his considerable take on things. He hasn't done a live talk for 18 months. He's uncharacteristically nervous, which means it means a lot to him. So please give him some encouragement. Set the tone for his talk. Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Thanks so much. Hello, Bases at the Barge and Bases Project, hello. Yeah, it's great to see you all. Familiar faces, new faces. It's been so long, hasn't it? We've been separated, now we're back together. It's a wonderful feeling. As Gemma said, the last conference I did a talk like this on stage in front of people, a live audience, was about 18 months ago, February last year, Rawcon. How many of you were at Rawcon? That was literally the last one, wasn't it? And then, well, I've done some Skype calls, that's not the same, is it? So, I'll tell you what, I feel a bit apprehensive because there's been a long gap between this conference and the last one. But you know what, I also feel overjoyed. I've really been happy to be back, and so it's great to see you all here. Thank you, all of you, for coming. Thanks to the Bases for the Barge in here for hosting this place, one of the most lovely places in the world for hosting us. Really appreciate that. I'm going to try and answer the question, what's going to happen next? We all want to know that, don't we? Can I or can I not? I'm going to give you a series of perspectives based on my analysis of the current events and immediate past, and try to extrapolate that into the future to make what I hope are educated guesses which provide an answer for that question. I'd like to dedicate this talk to Ian R. Crane. Great man. I was going to give a brief summary of his life, but there's no need. We all know who this man was. We know what he did. We know what he meant to us all. And to lose him so suddenly a couple of months ago was heartbreaking. And so, rest in peace, Ian. I know you're out there watching over us, mate, and I just want to know, this is for you. So, the world's in a bit of a terrible... In many ways, it's in a terrible state. It's a terrible place. There's lots of bad things going on. And I don't want to sound like one of those doorstep preachers, you know, and knock your door at 7 in the morning. The guys with the thick glasses and a box full of books, you know. I don't want to sound like them. But I will be trying to sell you some books. I will try and do that. But there are 4... I don't have time to go into details on this, but there are what I consider 4 pillars of civilization at the moment. There's a productive economy, which provides a high standard of living for all citizens. That's what I'm going to focus on today. There's also logic and science, which includes things such as free speech, the rule of law, and democracy, that is accountable leaders and officials who are subject to recall and who are appointed in the correct lawful manner. All four of those things are under attack, and it's not just happening, it's not just accidental, it is deliberate, it is sabotage. Hands up anyone who's better off now than they were like 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. Oh, there's always one, isn't there? Yeah, there's always one. Almost everyone I speak to now is worse off financially. Some of them are working longer hours to keep themselves going, their rent has gone up, the cost of living's gone up, and that, before we even get into the scamdemic, I'll be covering that later. Yeah, it's a really, it seems it's more, everything that's used to be easy, or easier, is now more and more difficult. Brian Gerrish of UK Column describes it as nothing works anymore. Yet we have wars breaking out. These are very expensive things, wars. They cost billions, yet there's no problem affording them. They appear everywhere all the time. It looks like they're trying to start another one now. It seems like we can't live without a war. Well, we could, but certain other people maybe can't, or can't survive without one. Environmental destruction. Whatever your opinion on carbon dioxide and whether it causes climate change or not, you can't disagree that the environment is in a bad way as a result of human activity. Again, I think this is engineered. There are ways and means of escaping from that and living a life in harmony with nature, which I talk about in other events, such as free energy, things like that. But we're not allowed to use them, we're not allowed to have access to those. And we have other systems of inefficiency and bad waste management that means that oceans fill with plastic, and as you see here, this is a burning forest. And along with the wars that various state actors are waging against other nation states, states are also waging wars against their own people. We have here a picture of just illustrates the way policemen have changed over the years. Just look at the difference. Look at the guys on the right there. I mean, if you were an old lady, would you ask them to escort you across the road? And we are under continuous surveillance, and what's even worse is that our entertainment, I'll be saying a bit more about our so-called entertainment later, it's of a very low quality considering the amount of resources put into it. I know we have a certain person here who's familiar with the mainstream media and worked within it. The budget of television production has soared. It's on the scale of Hollywood now. TVs are now as big as this projection screen now, and some of them are 3D. They're very, very high quality pictures, colour pictures of enormous depth, high definition. There's thousands of channels. When they used to, originally, they were just like one or two, and a TV was a little box in the corner of the room. But the actual intellectual quality and intellectual content and technical creativity of television has gone through the floor. It's much, much worse. And what's more, what was it they used to say on Edge Media? Watch us, watching you, watching them. Your TV can now watch you. The telescreen has arrived. If you have a television set, it very often has a camera in it, even if you don't know it. And if information about your habits, what you do when you're watching TV and things like that, are now fed back to the producers. And indeed, I'm sure, Vault 7, the CIA and other things like that. So you have the telescreen of George Orwell's 1984 is here. It won't be long before you will have to, like Winston Smith in that book, you'll have to do exercises in front of the TV to get a good social credit score. If you don't bend down low enough, someone will shout at you, Winston Smith, bend lower. And I think that I've said this from the beginning and I say it again, the drive is towards a dictatorial one world government. That is the aim of everything that's happening in the world today, this drive towards greater internationalism, greater authoritarianism. You see more and more flags like this. You often have the laurel wreath, which is actually symbolic of the Roman Empire, which I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But it's always portrayed in a very, very nice way. You have phrases like coming together. The European Union, for example, which is a stepping stone to this one world government, is presented in that way. It was none other than Joseph Stalin, actually, who suggested that world government could be achieved in two stages, with continental superstates
which would then be merged into the one world government, the Oceania, East Asia, Eurasia of 1984, who are always at war, incidentally, which takes me back to what I said earlier. The pictures of the European Union, you see little Dutch girls with clogs and bonnets, and little French boys with carrying baguettes and wearing berets, and little German kids with lederhosen, sitting in a circle singing Kumbaya. It's always meant to look nice. However they dress it up, it'll always be made to look like it's beneficial, it's kind, it's caring, it's loving, and it's all meant to do us good, but it's not. It's really not. It's probably more likely this will be presented as a solution to a problem, as Tony's t-shirt over there says. I will be addressing that more in a minute. So I'll give just a brief history lesson. Human civilization goes through cycles. I think, as Edmund Marriage was saying yesterday, there's not so much as a natural progression from barbarism to high civilization in a linear fashion. It rises and falls in a sine wave. It's in the case of that's what Edmund was talking about. It responds to climate, for example, the ability to create farms and to produce food to a large enough extent that you can fuel a civilization. This is a picture of Atlantis. I don't know how accurate that is, Edmund, but that's the popular picture that you often see. This rose and fell. There may be several reasons for that. I don't deny what Edmund said, but it appears from my research that an organisation, a secret society, arose during Atlantis, which was responsible for its downfall and indeed infiltrated some of the early historical civilizations. That is, the civilizations of the ancient world, Egypt, Sumer, China, etc. This is often the image used to symbolise this secret society, sometimes called the Illuminati, the Deep State, whatever you want to call it. But it's very old. This is actually from the $1 bill, and you see here the panopticon there, the Eye of Providence, and on top of the pyramid, it's the capstone separated from the pyramid. Underneath it says Novo Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, or the World, is a more accurate translation. And indeed, it rose to prominence, even if it didn't have complete control, in the ancient civilizations of the world. And I think it really took off. It seemed to have reached a point of no return, of actual control, around about the time of the Roman Empire. This is an extraordinarily large territory that covered the moors of northern England to the Persian Gulf at its greatest extent. And as you see here, 117 AD. So 117 AD was when it reached its highest level. Now, this was all these territories, there were various provinces that had their own governor. They all paid homage to the Caesar in Rome. What you see in Rome, in ancient Roman symbolism, is a lot of the same things you see today in places like Washington DC and Paris. You see arches, obelisk towers, the laurel wreath, which the Caesar wore on his head. The fasci, the axe tied to a bundle of rods, which is where we get fascism from. We inherited that word from the Italian, but it began in Rome. Now, I want you to focus on the top left of that picture. You see Britannia, that is the province of Britannia, which covered about 2/3 of Britain, from basically all of Britain up to Hadrian's Wall, which is a place I've been to actually. It's very interesting. You can see it here. This is an amazing work, actually, amazing work of architecture and engineering. 86 miles long, all the way from the Tyne Estuary to the Solway Firth. This runs. There are people who've walked all the way along it. A lot of it is still intact at a foundational level. This was, at one point, a quarter of the Roman military machine, its famous legions, was stationed in Britain. And there were calls in the Roman Senate to abandon Britain, saying, well, what's the point of it? Why are we expending so much resources on this white elephant? Wouldn't we be better off if we simply left Britain and focused on the rest of the empire? What's so special about Britain? The Caesar kept saying, no, we keep going. We have to stick with Britain. And why was that? Maria, I think maybe you provided some of the answers to that yesterday, even if she wasn't aware, because I think she understands that, and as I do, that it is something special about this land. It's where we are now. And the West Country in particular appears to be a place of extraordinary spiritual significance. And sometimes some people describe it as the heart chakra of the world. There are others, I'm sure, Jane, the earth is like the body, it has different chakras, but the Britain appears to be the heart chakra. This is why I think you get these crop circles are centred around this very spot here in Wiltshire, across the West Country. You get them all over the world, but they're focused here on the West Country of England. Now, in 1860, there was an attempt, the British people, attempted to rebel against Roman rule, led by Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe of Norfolk. They rose up and attempted to kill the Roman occupiers and free the country. They were kind of the Brexiteers of their time. Well, they were a lot fiercer, they really would. I mean, this lady here would make Nigel Farage tremble. Really, she would. Now, this is very interesting for many reasons. I find it a very emotive story indeed. But it's of extraordinary historical significance, far more than any of the participants and most historians recognise, because the participants certainly didn't realise this, and most historians don't. This was the clash of, sometimes they describe it, the clash of a historical and prehistoric civilization. However, it's actually the clash of Illuminati occupation and the pre-Illuminati world. Boudica representing the pre-Illuminati world. And it failed, unfortunately. But the Romans didn't conquer all of Britain. They had to stop Hadrian's Wall. So that's some comfort. The Scots, we owe them a lot. The Caledonians and the Picts. Are there any of you in this room? Well done, mate. Well done, guys. Now, what I think this shows, I think is something very important in the Boudica story. There's an important lesson here. Firstly, well, I think being British, maybe we have a kind of fetish for heroic failures, and this is the ultimate example. That's why we love Captain Scott and people like that. But also, the Illuminati is not all-powerful. It is not invulnerable or invincible. A lot of people in the conspirasphere, they listen to a bit of Alex Jones, and they go, oh my God, but this Illuminati is so powerful. And you keep hearing about how much power it has, it controls this, it controls that. We can't possibly beat it. But it is fallible, its power is limited, and it makes mistakes. And if this can happen once, it can happen again. Very important to realise. But this is the kind of the structure we have now, which is solidifying. This is the pyramid of power. There's several versions of this image, actually. There's an old one as well. You see the people at the bottom are governed by, there's organised religions, there's governments, there's the companies, and there's the corporatocracy above them. Above them there's the banking system, and above them there's the think tanks. This is where the hidden world and the public world that's where the hidden world takes over from the public world. With groups like the Bilderberg Group and the Club of Rome and the Trilateral Commission. And you hear more equally about the World Economic Forum. That is becoming an increasingly focal point. You hear people about Davos, the Davos meetings, Klaus Schwab and people like that. That's becoming increasingly, I think, important in the upcoming few years, the agenda for the next few years of this plan to create the one world government I saw before. You go up into the Committee 300 and the Kirk Council of 13 that John Coleman has written about, not to be confused with Vernon Coleman. This is another John Coleman. And you have the world monarch, who could be Queen Elizabeth II. She's certainly the most powerful person, I think, on public display. But at the top of the pyramid, the eye of Providence is panopticon, it's not God. I don't think that's even human. I think it's some kind of malevolent force that operates outside the physical universe that is trying to take control of ours. But brace yourself, the conspiracy theorists are coming. Are we the Boudicas of today? Oh, Boromir there, good guy. Yeah, this is what I mean. By coming here, we're striking back. We're striking back against everything what I've been talking about. I think when we take part in these kinds of meetings, even if it doesn't seem like as many of us here, it does have an effect. And I'll go into details about that. Now, David Icke, national laughingstock, demonised, called all kinds of names, today more than ever, has been very influential on me, especially in the early days as I started looking into all this material that we're all so familiar with. I still take an interest in what he has to say, even if I don't go along with every word of it. But this is a guy who, rather like our illustrious hostess, worked for the Broken Biscuit Corporation, didn't fit in, was too much of a free thinker, and ended up out on his ear. And indeed, he looks back now and he believes he did the right decision. He stands by the decision he made, and I think he's right. He couldn't stand to live in that fake world any longer, doing those fake things, talking that fake nonsense. Alex Jones, he's quite a character. Now I know he takes a lot of stick. He says some daft things. I don't gel with him as much now as I used to, but this is him at the 2013 Bilderberg Fringe Conference, where over 1,000 people turned up to protest the Bilderberg group at Watford. And I'm somewhere in that crowd. I met Alex actually. But so when you see all this, especially this is the 9/11 Truth Movement. Now that was a huge thing when it first emerged, and I think even if we didn't see the success of it during its heyday, don't underestimate the seeds that it planted and the information that came out during that period, the first few years after that attack, when that terrible day when those two buildings turned to dust in New York. So things look good in that respect. However, it's time to get controversial here. A lot of people within our community, appear to be focused more on attacking other people within this community. This is something that's getting worse and worse and worse. It's something I've been involved in because I've been trying to defend people who I think have been unfairly maligned, and I myself, as a result, have become a target of this. There's many examples I can give of this. You probably thought of one right now. You probably thought of another. There's probably so many. There's so many you could talk about. And that includes this organisation here, the Basis Project, and this conference we're at now. There's been numerous demonisations, vilifications, lies told about Miles and what he does, and the people around here who come to his conferences. The most recent attack is we've been called flying monkeys, the winged monkeys. That's the person who's attacking us the most now is saying that. We're the flying monkeys, who are they're the evil servants of the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz. That's what you are for coming here, apparently. The person who says this is really very, very nasty and destructive indeed. The accusations have no evidence. She's a woman, I think, who is not used to hearing men say no to her, and she doesn't like it. And guess what? She's going to have to get used to it. Hands up here is a shill.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've got one there. We've got confession. Oh, there's another one over there. We have confessions here.
We're on good.
Anyone else? Right, hands up here who's been accused of being a shill.
Yeah.
I see more hands go this. Oh, Miles puts up 2. Yes, indeed. Yeah, Miles could easily count for 2. Now keep your hand up if you've been accused of being a shill and someone's actually presented proper evidence that you are a shill.
You have to explain, we don't even know what it is.
A shill is a government agent, someone working to bring down the truth movement by infiltrating us. If you don't know what it is, that's good, Jane, because you don't want to be accused of that. So no good evidence. Oh,
I was accused, Ben, of being a government shill because I flew an aircraft over my house and disguised it as a UFO.
Oh, yeah. Tony just said, I don't know if you heard that there. He flew an aircraft over his house and disguised it as a UFO. That's the evidence. I've heard people, and Tony and I both did shows for a radio station that was accused of being an MI5 front. What's the evidence? Oh, their website looks a bit like mine. And what's your evidence? That's it. That's the evidence. It's getting beyond a joke. No real shill could possibly hope to spread this much discord and disharmony. It's an easily signed suspicion. That's the irony of it all. So I came up with an idea. Maybe the way I think we should sort this out is through a tribunal system. This tribunal system will be like a court, except we run it ourselves. Because we've got to find some due process, some way we can sit down, organise it. If you think you have evidence, and I say that to anyone who's attacked anyone right now, present it to your court. There'll be a defence case, there'll be a prosecution case, there'll be a jury. We can organise these things ourselves, and we can sort it out that way. And I bet you, most of these, when that happens, if we sort this out, very few of the attackers will dare to do this because they know they have no evidence. But we've got to stop this ordeal by hashtag, this medieval justice. If we're going to build a free world, we've got to behave like free human beings. And that means respecting the rule of law and respecting science and logic, as I said at the beginning, the two of the four pillars of civilization. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen this. This is Dr. Stephen Greer's new film. I told you I was going to get controversial. This is his latest documentary. I guess some of you have seen this. He launched it in one go onto free social media a couple of days ago. I watched it with interest, as I always do his videos. I always have mixed feelings about them. I have to say this is the worst. He's got some good bits in it, like that alien autopsy photo. I thought that was very interesting. But really it's about how all the other people in new ufology in particular, the people who say UAP rather than UFO, are just shills. And, well, I'd like to ask Dr. Greer if he wants to set up a tribunal for these people himself. I mean, I've never suggested that we hang on every word that people like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Tom DeLonge say, but there's not enough evidence for this shill-shaming that's been hurled at them. And I must say I'm particularly appalled at the attack on Leslie Kean. I think that is contemptible. Leslie Kean is one of the best researchers and activists in this field. It's because of her and Ralph Blumenthal and others at the New York Times that we know as much as we do. But this is an example, this is kind of why I get frustrated with this sort of thing, because this is what we potentially face, the end of the world. I mean, I've been told that I sit on the fence because I won't condemn Miles. That's what someone said to me once. I'm sitting on the fence and things like that. Well, I'm not sitting on the fence. I told this person that they're talking rubbish. But when it comes down to it, I mean, if everyone keeps coming at me with these shill accusations, if we can stop this New World Order, I'll write a 5-volume treatise on who's a shill and who's not a shill and who did what to whom and who's the king of the castle and who's the dirty rascal. But until we sort this out, I hope you'll understand if I reprioritise somewhat. How am I doing for time, guys? Can you give us a time call? What am I doing? When did I start? Oh, I'll just carry on, shall I? I will, let's carry on. No one knows, that's great. I'll take the stage away. Okay, I'm going to give you the information now that's keeping me alive. Is there any hope? That's the question.
Yes.
The answer is yes. That's no spoilers there. There is hope. Now, how many of you remember this? This is a 2012 phenomenon. It was really big at the time. The Mayan calendar, the long count, was going to change over from its 5,125-year cycle, which began on Tuesday the 14th of August, 3114 BC.
20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Right, you're up. Cheers, Miles. And ended 21st December 2012 AD. And that was there was all sorts of speculation about what was going to happen here. And some people said we were all going to be like, there's going to be some massive spiritual awakening, a kind of kumbaya moment across the world, and it was going to be, we were all going to stand up and be priests of high Atlantis. Other people thought we were going to have space debris rained on us, and there was going to be a crustal displacement like in that film by Roland Emmerich. I don't know how many of you have seen 2012 We Will Mourn by Roland Emmerich. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. I watched it and then I looked in the mirror and said, you're 2 hours older, mate. Not my favourite movie, not exactly the best Hollywood action of all, but nothing really happened. I remember the day very well because my partner at the time, her mother died that day, I remember, so it was an eventful day for me, but generally it was just a normal day, wasn't it? Some people said, well, obviously people generally just forgot about it, didn't they? But that's not the thing is about the 2012 calendar. It's not the only thing that's changing in these years as we go this particular time period. It's pivotal in many other ways by many other ancient traditional calendars, people who understood the natural rhythms of the world. The Kali Yuga in the Hindu calendar, which is very different to like the Gregorian calendar, and because of the Judeo-Christian idea of the linear progression of history, versus the cyclical version of history. But what happens is the different yugas, these ages, change from one to the other. The Kali Yuga is often called the Iron Age, or it's ruled over by Kali, who's sort of thought to be a negative figure in Hindu mythology, and is going to be replaced by the Arya or Satya Yuga, which is sometimes called the Golden Age. Well, I hope that's true. But it's happening in 2025. I don't know what the exact date is, but that'd be good if that happens, isn't it? Very good if that happens. And this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius. Now, astrologers don't agree when that actually happens, because I don't know if you've had Helen Sewell here, an astrologer. She said that the actual age of Aquarius doesn't change until sometime in the next century. Other astrologers said the age of Aquarius started around about 1900, and we've already been in it 121 years, and things like that. So no one knows the exact time the age of Pisces changes to the age of Aquarius. But according to the song, it's when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, love shall steal the planets, and what was it? Peace will steal the stars. Yeah, that's actually those lyrics actually fit better into the song than they do in terms of the sense they talk in terms of astrology. But this idea of a forthcoming golden age, the return to Eden kind of idea, is perennial. It's as perennial in societies and cultures across the world as is the fallen man. That is the story of the Garden of Eden, not the literal one that Edmund talked about with the commentary impact, but the biblical one about the human's relationship with God changing the way it did with Adam and Eve. The idea that we can return to grace is a perennial one. I've got an entire studio lecture on that, which I've never performed. But now the second coming of Jesus. Now this is I must say I'm not a Christian, but I'm fascinated by these sorts of ideas. Is anyone here Jesus? Now Tony again. So I'm hunting for exclusives here, guys. I really am. But there's an idea that Jesus will return, as it's said in the Nicene Creed. I shall come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and that his kingdom shall have no end. Now, I don't believe that literally. However, this could be an interpretation of this return to grace archetype. That's David was talking about, actually, the archetype of the return to grace. That seems to be prevalent across the world. And if Jesus does return, I'll be pleased, even I'll have to say I'm sorry I didn't go to church and things like that, you know. But it could happen. What's unique about the Christian and the Judeo-Christian idea, the idea of the return of Jesus is also present in Islam. Eschatological ideas of Islam, the Mahdi and the last Imam and things like that. There's no date, there's no predicted date. If people have tried to, lots of usually people in the United States, evangelical Protestants of North America, they often think they know when it's going to happen, but nobody knows apparently. Now, we'll come to David Icke again, not 2012, 2016. You're not going to believe this. In 2008, David Icke did an interview where he said he thought there was a lot of fuss about 2012, but he didn't think anything really important would happen in 2012. He said it would happen in a different year, 2016. The idea is that what happened on the changing of the Mayan calendar is that nothing overt happened in the physical world, but a switch was flipped somewhere deep down within the spiritual side of the universe, which eventually would manifest in the physical world, but it would take a little while. Indeed, it took 4 years. And I remember that interview very well because it came back to me because in 2016 I consider one of the most remarkable years in history. Two things happened in 2016 which absolutely stunned me. I make predictions because and I sometimes get them right, not because I'm psychic, but because I've learned a lot about how this agenda works. I understand, I think a little bit about how they think and how they plan. But one thing I said for certain was Donald Trump cannot be the US president and Britain cannot leave the European Union. But both those things happened. Now, I know that not all of you will agree. I know that many people think that this was all planned, it was all part of the conspiracy. I believe that is false, and I can explain why. I've had explained why on certain occasions. I don't have time to go into detail now. But whatever your opinion of Brexit or President Trump, there's absolutely no doubt this was not what the elite intended. I think that the Illuminati completely lost control for about 6 months. Now, they've been trying to claw it back, but I really think they're having a lot of trouble. Now, more and more people have been appearing at various protests and things wearing the letter Q on there. Now, this refers to QAnon, and I know, again, a lot of you think it's all rubbish, a lot of you think it's evil. But what if, just think for a moment, what if the Illuminati has not managed to gain back the ground that they lost? What if there are actually people now in control of various government organisations, the military for example, who are not on their side? And there's a kind of quiet war going on behind the scenes, a fifth generation of warfare, involving electronics and things like that. I don't know the answer to this, I can't prove otherwise. I know Neil Sanders, I think, who Miles knows, I think you all know him. He says this is all a bit of nonsense. He says there's a lot of psyops going on. And the same goes, he says that Brexit and Trump was caused by Cambridge Analytica and things like this. But what if that's not true? What if there's more going on? What if, and I do explain this in detail in articles and videos and things like this, we are looking at the possible long-term end, maybe even permanent end of Illuminati control on this planet. Now, in 2017, this happened. This is the now famous image first published by To the Stars Academy. Everyone knows, I think, most people, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but most people know where they were on the 19th of December 2017. This is where I was. Colin, do you remember this? Yeah. Colin and I were doing a video with Miles at the Basis Project headquarters, and Miles broke in and he says, "Have you heard the news?" I think it was you, Miles. And we heard about this amazing video that had just appeared and thought, where's it from? What's I mean, a lot of people came out and there's a lot of speculation. Could it be just a hoax? Is it all CGI? Is it just some new fangled piece of rubbish that some idiot in his basement has conjured up and they're fooling us? Wow. May 2019, the US Department of Defense confirms the existence of ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Now this is again John Greenwald of the Black Vault. He's a good researcher actually because he's very cautious. He doesn't jump to conclusions, and he's always like on the sort of trailing edge of excitement. But that's probably, we need people like that, because he was speculating that ATIP just might be made up. But no, it was real. What's more, September of that year, September 2019, footage confirmed as official US Navy footage. David Fravor and the other witnesses were vindicated. They hadn't made it up. January 2020, more evidence exists. The government confirmed that they have more footage and also telemetry of more UFOs, and indeed more detailed evidence of the UFOs that have already been talked about. Now, a lot of it's being held back. It's got nothing to do with the UFO situation. It's being held back simply because just the very fact that it exists might reveal a lot about the capabilities of these ships, which are very closely guarded secrets. How sensitive their radar is, the electronic support measures, things like that. They don't want to do that. So that seems to be the main reason now that more information is not being published. In April 2020, the videos, which we know about, were all declassified formally, which is a bit like shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, but there you are. So now, basically, I think this means, this I think was very important for the witnesses because it meant that this was kind of a nudge in the ribs that they weren't going to face criminal charges for what they said. In July 2020, ATIP, it was revealed that ATIP hadn't closed. Well, it formally had, but it was just really red tape. They just rebranded it. They moved it from the Defence Intelligence Agency into the Department of Defence, and they called it the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, UAPTF, a series of letters which have become part of the everyday parlance of the UFO crowd now, and we just had the report that's come out. And this is, I think, is probably the most interesting thing of all. When Lou Elizondo was on the Tucker Carlson show, he mentioned physical evidence, and Anthony Bragalia, the researcher, wrote to the Defence Intelligence Agency asking, under the Freedom of Information Act request, saying, what have you got there? What have you got which he's referring to? And they wrote back, they said, we have a 154-page document, only 11 of them can be declassified under FOIA. So he received 11 pages. But those 11 pages are remarkable. They talk about something called nitinol. Now, I knew that something like this existed because I've been talking a lot to Dr. Irina Scott, who's written 3 really good books about her work at the Battelle Memorial Institute studying strange material, including material that she found very, very hard to melt in a forge, material that seemed to keep its shape when it was bent. It was referred to as having the ability, being very, very elastic. You can bend it, you pull it, you fold it, it returns to its existing shape. There's no other material that can do that apart from rubber. But this is not rubber, this is metallic. It's been referred to as metamaterial. Now, what they describe here in these 11 pages fits very much with what Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr. said about what he was shown in July of 1947. Miles told me I'm not allowed to mention Roswell, but I have to. Is this the material from the Roswell crash? In which case it did come from aliens. Now, I've just been talking to several people about this. These images themselves from the USS Omaha and the USS Russell are not terribly interesting in themselves. Again, it's telemetry that has been captured that makes it more interesting. Jeremy Corbell, every time someone says that he's not providing enough, he seems to be able to get hold of more. So this is the latest thing. We've already seen also a radar display from the USS Omaha showing several objects around the ship which can't be identified. And according to many witnesses, this is a regular thing. And I'm hoping that the climate is changing to make make it easier for whistleblowers to come forward. Now, this is interesting. Now, this is a calendar, a series of calendars over the last 5 years. The red arrows represent important revelations along this line. Now, obviously 2017, the big bombshell. Then nothing really happened in 2018. During 2018, I actually thought this might just be a storm in a teacup and it was going to go away. Come 2019, it all kicks off again. Now, there's no actual discernible, provable pattern there. It could just be that pareidolia that Dave talked about. But I can't help noticing there seems to be not exactly even spacing here, but it's a structure to this. Maybe it's just my imagination, but is this some kind of schedule? In which case we can probably expect something around about autumn time this year, some more on that same scale. We've also got this, a Muamua. Now this is known as the turd picture, because it's for obvious reasons. The artist has distinctly tried to make this look like a natural object. It looks exactly like a natural object, like any other lump of rock in space would look, except it's elongated the way this object is. Now, this is been presented as a true and accurate image of a Muamua. It is not. An artist did this. No one knows what it looks like. No telescope has ever been able to view it closely enough. And now it's heading out of our solar system. It's already past the orbit of Saturn. It's unlikely we ever will unless they find some way to get a spacecraft to it, which would be very difficult at the speed it's going and the distance it is. But Dr. A.V. Loeb has written a book called Extraterrestrial, which I reviewed for UFO Truth magazine. I must say, it could be one of the most important astronomical textbooks ever written. A.V. Loeb, who's the head of the astronomy and astrophysics at Harvard University, has staked his entire reputation and career on this being an artificial object because of the way it moves. It has moved in a way that objects in space don't normally do. It shouldn't be moving the way it is. Now, on Mars at the moment, and that shocked me when I saw that. Have you seen this picture? I think you probably have. What is that thing there? Looks like a crab or spider or something crawling up the wall. This is on Mars. This isn't in the sea. This is on Mars. Now, there's a craft on Mars called Perseverance, which is far more sophisticated than any other probe that's ever landed on Mars before. It's got a little helicopter called Ingenuity. It's presented the first motion pictures from another planet, the first sounds. This has really it's been hyped up more than any other Martian mission in history, except perhaps the Baron and Viking, which were the first. It's almost like the public's attention is being deliberately drawn very much towards this by the media in a way we've not had before. I do kind of wondering if we're looking at some kind of event in which, or the Chinese one, the Shang, the Chinese probe that's followed it, which is also very, very sophisticated, is going to discover, quote unquote, life on Mars. That in itself is not revolutionary, but it will draw people's minds and attention up into the sky and perhaps make them more amenable in the same way that the screen memories do, as Dave was talking about, the screen memories. It's almost like they're a similar thing the government are doing with us. They're moulding our minds to be the right shape when they pour in the true material, the true slope. Do you recognise this lady? Helen Sharman, the first British person in space, a very, very important historical figure, has come out and said it's possible UFOs and aliens are right here, right now. They're not just out there where you can pick them up on a radio signal, and we can't see them right now. Now, for someone in her position, not the fact that she's a very, very highly qualified and established chemist, but the fact that she is the first Briton in space is extraordinary. Now, let's go back to the Broken Biscuit Corporation and the travesties it presents. What's my least favourite programme in the world? I think it's hard to, they're all so terrible, it's hard to pick one out. One of the worst is certainly Loose Women. It's a mixture of very shallow tabloid gossip and feminist propaganda. But someone who's actually in the audience right now may be aware of something. Some dung heaps have jewels in them. And Kim Wilde is quite a jewel, I think you'll say. And I admire her now even more than I did before, because she spoke on this programme. She says aliens are keeping an eye on us. She saw a UFO in her back garden. Her husband saw it too. He went to get a camera, and she went and she told people. It was in a local newspaper. She, like many other witnesses, is in a position where she's open to ridicule. She's open to being called crazy. I don't know. Some of you might not be old enough to remember her, but she was a very, very famous singer-songwriter in the 80s. Her fans, most of whom were sort of my generation, may turn against her, yet she's speaking out about this. Well done, Kim. Now, the Storm Area 51 thing, I mean, it's kind of perverse and funny at the same time. I really hope that it wouldn't actually happen, because look, thousands of people running across the desert towards Area 50, it's going to end badly. You know, the camo dudes, these security guards, they will open fire if they see people doing that, and there will be people killed. Also in the desert, they may well get too hot and not have enough water and things like that. But there's this, like a kid in his basement started this, a perfect stereotype of what we're supposed to be started this meme. Let's see them aliens, they can't stop all of us. Well, it turned into just a bit of fun. There was something called alien stock. And the Space Force. Now the Space Force says here, its charter is to provide freedom of operation for the US in, from and to space, to provide prompt and sustained space operations, protect the interests of the US in space. This is the interesting bit. Deter aggression in, from and to space and conduct space operations. 5 minutes? Okay, alright. 10, alright. This is a little alien boy. He's been in like a program. Did you see him he was in like UNICEF in 2015. Published a video about a little alien boy who's enrolled in a school and the other kids are really nasty to him. But then they accept him eventually, and it's like a really sweet story. Now this is a school in York. Some kids in a school in York went to school one day, and they found a crash flying saucer in their school playground. It was surrounded by police tape. There were some guys from NASA wearing hazardous material suits, and they went through a role-playing exercise of an alien actually being in their school from a crash retrieval. Now, Kathy Morgan, her grandson was involved in this, because it wasn't just York, this must be in the national curriculum, it's everywhere. What's going on? Are we being prepared for official UFO disclosure? That's the question. This is one of the perspectives I have to make, because I was saying, it's possible with everything that's been happening, willing disclosure can take place. However, Julie's going to talk more about this tomorrow, I think, but there are craft which have been created on Earth by humans which can match the capabilities of extraterrestrial craft. Is that what we're seeing instead? And the answer is I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have time, unfortunately, to go into more details about this, but it does make me wonder. Boromir again. Yes. It's a strange fate we should suffer so much fear and doubt over so small a thing. But this has been used to justify a kind of imposition of government authoritarianism that I don't think they've got away with any other way, except perhaps possibly if these fill the skies and people say they're nasty, like Carol Rosin said. Either way, if the lockdown ends, something will replace it, because this is interesting. The Power of Nightmares, The Rise of the Politics of Fear. This is a book. It's also a documentary by Alan Curtis. And he said, in the past, politicians promised to create a better world. They had different ways of achieving this, but their power and authority came from the optimistic visions they offered to the people. Those dreams failed, and today people have lost faith in ideologies. Increasingly, politicians are seen simply as managers of public life, but now they've discovered a new role that restores their power and authority. Instead of delivering dreams, politicians now promise to protect us from nightmares. They say they will rescue us from dreadful dangers that we cannot see and do not understand. And if they lose one, they have to have another. They can't leave us alone. There has to be some kind of crisis. And if there's not a real one, they'll make one up. Food shortages. Apparently there's a shortage of lorry drivers now. And things like that, and farm hands and people like that. That's the latest thing. That, I think, is going to replace COVID-19. And power cuts. Have you heard there's now cyber terrorists who want to hack their power stations and shut off our electricity? Oh my God, what are we going to do? Take a look at David's t-shirt behind you there. Tony's, pardon me. But I really don't want you to be hopeful. I'm on now. Is it about 5 minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes, I reckon. Yeah. This is Lyle Watson, South African scientist who he discovered something very interesting in 1952. He was doing experiments on these cute little things. These are snow macaques. They live in Japan. Aren't they lovely? But they're also very, very amazing because they eat sweet potatoes, which they dig up from the ground. Now, one of them one day discovered if you wash the sweet potato in the sea, it tastes better. You don't really get the earth off it, but it gets salt in it and it tastes better. One monkey did it, and the others thought, "Oh, look, I'll try that." And so they went over there and they had a go. And before you know it, lots of the monkeys were learning from the others how to do that, and the habit spread. However, Watson said it would probably take several years for all the monkeys on this island to do it, to learn how to do it. However, it took just a couple of days. As soon as a certain number of monkeys learned how to do this, suddenly they all seem to know how, even monkeys on different islands. It's as if they reached a critical mass and then a switch was flipped and suddenly that knowledge imparted into everything. So what the point I'm making is, because Lyle Watson said that roughly 1% of monkeys are sort of necessary, right? That's where you get the 100th monkey effect. Well, we humans are closely related to monkeys. So, what I'm saying is you think, well, people aren't waking up enough. How come there's only a few people in this room? You know, everyone's queuing up to buy the latest iPhone. You don't have to have the majority of people to know all about this. You just have to have a certain number, and it's not the majority by any means. The 100th monkey, once we hit the 100th monkey, it'll be like with these, we'll all be doing it. Now, the 100th monkey could be in this room. Who is it? Who's the 100th monkey? It's not Tony this time. Is anyone in this room the 100th monkey? It could be you. We may not know. This works through Carl. No, we already heard about this guy today, Carl Gustav Jung, and the archetypes that he discovered, and the fact he talked about the collective unconscious. That's where it all comes from. But you know what? It's not as lonely as it used to be, is it? It's not quite as bad, because opinion polls indicate that we, the people in this room, we seem to be a small vocal tip of a huge silent iceberg. Opinion polls show 21% of people believe in the New World Order. 11% believe that the 9/11 was staged. Roswell, you're getting into, it's not the majority, but you're getting into 30%, 40% of various conspiracies that come about. Not all those people speak out like we do, but they all think it. And 51% of people don't accept the official story of the Kennedy assassination. Oswald acted alone. That's good news. That shows that awareness is increasing. I'll skip that. I think, could hit the 100th monkey point. We could, if we have UFO disclosure, real UFO disclosure, then I think we can relax, because the New World Order is not possible in a world without the truth embargo. That is a cornerstone of the New World Order, because of things connected to free energy and the psychological effect of the universe and things like that. Now, is this glass half full or half empty? Now, it's easy to be pessimistic in this world, and I understand why, with all the bad things going on. However, I think it's better to be an optimist, because not only do you put out positive thoughts into the world, which can have an effect on all kinds of levels, but it's also, look, if you're proved wrong, right? If you're an optimist and you're proved wrong, you feel disappointed, don't you? But if you're a pessimist and you're proved wrong, you miss out on all the fun. You know, so be an optimist. Terence McKenna, very, very interesting chap indeed. If you want to listen to him, there's hundreds of hours of lectures he gave online. The main thing to understand is we're imprisoned in some kind of work of art. Well, is it some kind of postmodern conceptual monstrosity, or is it a beautiful Renaissance painting? That's up to us. We're the artists. We have the paintbrush and we have the paints. Let's make it something good, shall we? Now, this is my novel, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. I don't have any copies of it, because it's been wrapped up in a bag for 18 months. I haven't ordered any. But I do have the other two books of the Roswell trilogy on that table over there, if you want to buy a copy. You can order the first one, and it comes in from Amazon. It turns up in a couple of days. But that's basically these books. If you enjoyed what I talk about in this discussion, I think you'll enjoy these books, because it's a fictional story. Just a novel, as I say, but the Roswell trilogy is a scenario in which we got the truth instead of the lies. And that led to a thought experiment in my head, which led to a fictional scenario, which led to this story. And you know what, I'm proud of this. I think you will enjoy it if you enjoyed this talk. And if you want to know anything more about me, my name is Emlyn-Jones, and my website, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order, hapanma-blogspot.co.uk, and all its associated works. I want to appreciate it's been good talking to you today. It's great to meet you all again. Thank you very much for having me here. Thanks, Gemma.
There we go. Back in the swing of it, eh, Ben? Back in the
Yeah, I
sack.
know.
Wasn't that brilliant? Yeah, well done. Absolutely brilliant and very well done. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Gemma, for being a great hostess.
Well, it's not over yet. So
Oh, okay. I'm not the one to say that, yeah.
The books are on the table over there, along with Edmund Marriage's books from yesterday, most of which have sold well, but there are still a few copies of the books he was referring to in his very detailed talk. Are we going straight to the next speaker, or are we having a little break? I think we could just maybe open a couple of doors and get some fresh air in here. I don't know if everyone agrees. But...
I've done my talk. It went really well. You've already seen it. I'm here with Neil here, so he's now going to interview me.
Hello,
you're familiar with Neil, yeah. So yeah, I'm still coming down from that. Nice to know I can relax, have a pint, know that the work's over. Yeah, I had to shorten it a little bit just because I slightly overestimated the duration, but I managed to, as soon as I realised what the time constraints was, I managed to adjust it, so finished bang on time. Yeah. I've still got it, I haven't lost it. I've got back in the saddle and I'm galloping away. Day 2 has just ended. We're just here in the function room. There's old Miles there. There's Dave Hogan and Neil, and he's interviewing a few more people. He did this interview with me. I'm now. I'll talk about. I think I have to talk about the. I think doing the talk took it out of it. I didn't really watch Igor Witkowski very much, and of course I didn't watch Dave Hogan, Mike Oren, because I was preparing. There were speakers like that. Tony Topping, Sophia Green, and who else? Remy is Nicholas and the Group Keeper, or what's he called, Celestial Paladin. So we're now going to. And now we're going to wait till everyone's made a decision about what they want to do this evening and head back to Devizes. But it's been a good day. I haven't sold any books, I don't think. Although Jane, you saw me. You saw someone would take a book, didn't you?
Well, no, I didn't see anybody take a book, but I thought that somebody had one in their hand.
Okay, I'm sure they'll come and give me the money. I think people are honest. I haven't counted them, you see. I've had them wrapped up for 18 months. Yeah. Anyway, I'm tired.
I'm exhausted. I've done absolutely bugger.
It's weird. Sitting around for ages, really just sitting there takes it out of you for some reason. I feel like I've run 10 miles. Anyway, we're now all outside. The rain has stopped, I'm glad to say. Hey guys, I'm in the Bear Hotel because they don't take cash. I've had we're trying to find a place. All the organisation like falling apart though because everyone wants to do different things. We was hanging around in the pub for wondering who we were going to go with or where they wanted to go. It's the usual story. We need some kind of, I think, sergeant major to just say, right, we're going to do this, everyone goes there, and then we can all go there. And we're now going to try and find somewhere else to eat, but it's now 9 PM, so basically it's the first place we come to, or it's either the first place we come to or it's another bloody pizza, I think, for me. You could spend all night going around looking for somewhere to eat. You tried to get into the Wetherspoons, but it was full. You couldn't take too many people in. So we'll wait and see what happens. I'm just walking through Devizes, it's late at night. I'm in a restaurant called the Mayflower. I'll show you my meal in a minute, but I've just nipped out because I feel a bit guilty because when Jane drove here, she doesn't have a sat-nav, so I guided her to the closest safe parking spot I thought was in the closest safe parking spot I thought was in Devizes, so the Wetherspoons. Problem is, it's about 20 minutes walk away. Then I look at Colin's Google Maps, and I've realised we actually went the long way round. So I'm going to take a quick stroll up to where Jane parked her car, so that when she comes out, because she's not a young lady, she doesn't have walking shoes, I want to make sure that we can get there quickly. I'm just going to double check where the car is and then go back. So that's the kind of gentleman I am, you see. And it's a lovely town, actually. It's a very picturesque town. I can walk so much quicker on my own than Jane. Look, it's okay. So I think we're nearly there. I turn right at the end here. I should see the Sainsbury's. When I see the Sainsbury's, I'll know I'm close to the car. It's like this, as I said earlier, I think I made this point earlier, when it comes to these social events, anyone who's going somewhere needs to make plans, because it's like, so we started eating so late just because we couldn't find anywhere. Couldn't find anywhere to eat. But we found somewhere now, it's reasonably priced, there's plenty of room. Damn COVID restrictions are the problem. Okay guys, see you later. Okay, I'm back in Miles Central. I never got to show you my meal at the Chinese, but not to worry, it was a Chinese meal. What's there to see? It's about 11:30, I'm probably going to go to bed now. So, night night. The final day of the Basis Project conference is tomorrow. Yes, it's one more day to go. It's always a bit of a triste element of that, I think, in those situations. Hello there everyone, good morning, it's Sunday morning. It is I think the 11th of July. I'm at the Basis Project headquarters after a very good night's sleep, much better than last night, and I'm sitting pretty much where Miles often does his fast blast, so you may recognise the background behind me. Unfortunately, there's a lot of tension at the moment, both within myself and generally in this community. I don't want to go into details now, but there's been a bit of an argument. I know the conference has been rescheduled now for, I think some of the speakers have gone, there's a longer lunch break, another speaker has got a second session, I think it's Sophia Green, or Sophia Green, whichever's correct. She now has a second session today, and I don't know exactly what the restructuring is. All I've heard is that certain people have gone, others, you know, things like that. We won't know for certain. I don't know what actually has been changed and what was just said in the heat of the moment. Like I said, I don't want to get into details of the rights and the wrongs of everything. I'm just here to meet people. People come here to form. There's been lots of discussion about why people come to conferences, what's the point of them. For me, it's about education, camaraderie and solidarity. That's what they're for. Other people may come for different reasons. But at the end of the day, you buy a ticket, you turn up, it's for your own reasons. And it doesn't really matter. It's up to the person who attends. I did Roswell 70 because I thought someone should do a conference about the 70th anniversary of Roswell. People turned up for their own reasons. Others may have come for different reasons. There's also, I mean, I myself feel internally quite taut at the moment because about feelings I'm having now, which I've not spoken about this. There hasn't been any argument, and I'm not going to start an argument this weekend. There's a Japanese proverb that goes, a samurai does not draw his sword to mow the lawn. Which basically means, you know, when it comes to battles, choose your engagements wisely and plan them ahead, and make sure they're important and they're going to be productive and not destructive. The issue of women in ufology has come up yet again. One of the people here, someone who we were at the Chinese restaurant with last night, is very much a women in ufology person, and you know my feelings on that. I don't need to repeat the points I made previously. I'll put a link in the description box to the last conference I was at, which was RawCon, and in that conference I have a long discussion, I have a long tirade, I don't know what you call it, towards the end of that particular video, where I go into all the details of the whole women in ufology issue. I've also had debates with Paola Leopizzi Harris over this, and several other people. Erica Lukes as well did a YouTube video where I put a comment on about this. So that I just sat there and I bit my tongue and I didn't say anything, and I didn't want, like I said, it wasn't the right time and place. An issue this important can't really just be brought up casually at the dinner table. So, so the last 12 hours or so hasn't been very easy, with the difficulty in even finding somewhere to eat. The herding cats situation, which, as I just explained, meant we didn't even sit down until almost about almost 9:30 in the evening. We actually sat down to eat something. And then of course the women in ufology thing, and then this argument that's just broken out in the Bases Project headquarters. I'm sort of sitting here feeling a bit dismal about that. I'll probably cheer once I get to the venue. I'll probably feel better because there'll be other people there. I might even sell some books. So I'm just having my morning cup of coffee. Jane insists on making the best filtered coffee, which I don't normally drink, and it's lovely. She's she's a well-spoken lady, and she's actually quite a connoisseur of the good things in life. So thank you very much for that, Jane. So we're just going to have breakfast, although I'm not eating anything. I'm not hungry. And let's go up to the last day, sadly, of the Bases Project Conference, Bases at the Barge 2021. Now, I should say a few words about the other speakers, which I didn't cover. I think I covered it up to Dave Hodrin, didn't I? Mike Oram was the speaker before me. Hello. He was the speaker before me. I didn't actually catch much of his talk because I was preparing myself for my own talk. He talked about the Warminster thing. He was only on for half an hour on a Zoom call. Then Igor Witkowski came on, and this was after my talk, and I was sort of like, I was actually down in a pint in the bar. I missed most of that. But Igor Witkowski is a very interesting chap. He's researched the bell and the beehive, whatever it's called, in the Wenceslas mine. That's very interesting. The Nazi anti-gravity device. By the time I kind of settled down, Tony Topping was on. Now he's always very interesting, and he presented some new material. He talked about somebody called Alexei Yusavin. Now he apparently is the Russian Ingo Swann, and apparently he is he's a psychic spy. I mean, I don't know this. I've never met this guy. Apparently he's a psychic spy, and he's spying for his country, which means I suppose it puts the computer hacking into a bit of a cocked hat, really, well, doesn't it? But Tony talked about things such as time travel visions. He said somebody knew he would write the book. He's writing I, Alien, this new book that's coming out. He also mentioned, he touched briefly on the subject he very bravely spoke about on Hapanwo Radio in detail. That is this alien female called Isa, who is the mother of his daughter. I remember that very well, yeah. He says that there's alien forces, an alien UN and an alien Russia, apparently. Parallel universes are involved in this. And he also mentions he's been talking to Joseph McMoneagle, who is Joseph McMoneagle, whatever you pronounce it. He's he's another Ingo Swann. He spied for the CIA. Ingo Swann wrote a good book called Penetration. It's really quite something about remote viewing. That's really quite astonishing. That's worth reading, I'll tell you. He died actually a couple of years, Ingo Swann. Sophia Green she gave a short talk. It was cut down a little bit because of time constraints, but she told a very harrowing story about child trafficking, and she herself was trafficked from South Africa. She was then sent around with her adopted family to Cornwall, Ireland. She says there is alien involvement in child trafficking and child abuse. Jimmy Savile was involved with top politicians. There's places such as the Hellfire Caves, Dolphin Square. We're all familiar with these if we study this very harrowing subject. She encountered reptilian shapeshifters at various bases and military bases. Burnham Beeches, the City of London's Nat Park in I think it's in Buckinghamshire, and High Brazil, which is a it is a mythical island off the coast of Ireland, which has been found, like during the Ice Age there was an island where High Brazil is supposed to be because the sea level was lower. Today it's a seamount, like an underwater mountain, but during the Ice Age its top would have stuck above the surface. The final speakers of the day, there was a double act of Celestial Paladin and St. Nicholas. Now, Celestial Paladin is Duncan the Gridkeeper under his new name. And he didn't actually say anything. He sat on stage and didn't say anything. He just was completely silent. I think he was maybe sending out telepathic messages to his co-speaker, who was a guy called St. Nicholas. Which is the name. St. Nicholas actually was a chap who lived in the 4th century in what's today Turkey, and the legend of Santa Claus actually begins with St. Nicholas. Santa Claus is a version of St. Nicholas because he protected children in his town. This guy speaks with a very odd accent. I can't place it. He claims he comes from Texas. He doesn't sound like a Texan. But he talks about he talks about the Soviet Union, and again he goes into what Tony Topping did with the remote viewing during the Cold War, which is probably still going on today in modern Russia, actually. Apparently, after World War II, in 1945, when Germany was destroyed, of course that ties into the bell and things like that Witkowski talks about, there was a Operation Paperclip involved the transfer of scientists from Germany to the victorious Allies, and apparently the Americans got the rocket scientists and the Russians got the psychic spies. I mean, the Nazis had psychic spies, people like Maria Ortiz, the medium. This is why they were so interested in Helen Duncan. But he talks about TikTok, and apparently he makes TikTok videos, and apparently he said that if you watch them, he makes predictions on bets, and of course if you do that, if you know what, for example, which horse is going to come in first, and you know in advance, then you can make a fortune, can't you? You can make an infinite amount of money. But I think several people have said that they can do that. There's all kinds of mythology associated with gambling. Gambling is, of course, because it relies on so much luck. Gamblers tend to be very superstitious people. There's all kinds of people. I've known people come up with various systems saying they can beat the bookies. You know, in other words, I think the word is it's 100% plus dividends. That's the word. So if the dividend goes over 100%, then you essentially just make endless. You can make as much money as you like off gambling, but there's all kinds of ways people think they can get around that with various. They have systems, you know, like if you bet for the bet for the 4th horse on the 6th day of each month, every single racetrack with an A in its name and things like that. They've all proven to be false. This guy reckons that he knows in advance. I don't buy that. I'm open to suggestion, but I can't see how you can use these things. The universe has a way of stopping people doing that, using its powers for your own profit, through illicit means. It's a form of fraud, actually. But I'm open to persuasion if that's the case. This is new information to me. I might be wrong. But he talks about the Christian Eriksen collapse. This is a footballer who, during the European Cup that's just going on at the moment. In fact, today's the final, and England are playing Italy. He collapsed on the field. Apparently, he's got a heart problem. He may not be able to play again. It's a horrible thing. But this guy was, he was saying that one of the videos caused that. I didn't quite understand that bit. Disturbing if that's true. Anyway, that was the end of Saturday, and then that was when yesterday evening began, and we got so uptight, and and hopefully this evening will be better. I wish England luck actually in the final. I'll be watching it here in Miles's place this evening. I wish England luck. I think that they deserve to win. England they've got a lot of skill in their team, and I'm not talking as a Welshman now. I want them to win. They've got a lot of skill in their team. They deserve it. I think England have been a bit cursed, quite frankly, with bad luck. Since the '66 final where they won the World Cup final. I mean, in the '86 World Cup final, they lost the semi-final because of cheating by Diego Maradona. Many other examples, lost on penalty shootouts here, there and the other way. And penalty shootouts are bloody awful. It's like tossing a coin. But they've lost so many. It's like a row of tails, tails, tails every time. And so good luck England, come on. Let's hope they can break that curse. We're heading for the Barge again for day 3, the final day of this conference. There's the peaks of Wiltshire ahead of us. It's actually not raining today, but it's still a bit gloomy, so no doubt the car park will be muddy again, so we'll get our feet mucky. Well, the ladies have really sort of indoor shoes, so it's a difficult walk from the car park to the venue, but look at it. I'll still never get over the beauty of these peaks. And we can see them, which is nice, and they're not covered in murky rain. Let's wonder how I'll feel by the end of today. Not sure. Post bases blues, we'll find out. Look at that, hang gliders. There are, I don't know if you can see that, I don't think the focus will work, because but there are actually hang gliders, or paragliders, what they're called, above that hill there. That looks like great fun, doesn't it?
The only way men do it is if
Perfect. Miles has got one of the greatest. I think there's some good T-shirts at this conference, but Miles's wins. It's Roswell Adult Club, totally topless, but who cares? Triple X race since 1947. There's a rather alluring grey there. That's a good one, mate. That really is.
Ben, I'm going to say something right now.
Yes, sir.
I was worried about you. Now I am very.
Oh yeah. Well, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't, mate? Who wouldn't? I was going to say thank you very much to Miles for this brilliant conference and for organising it. It's been another great one.
Tragically cut short. I've had to cut half the speakers today, but anyway, there it is.
Yeah, but thank you very much for everything you've done, mate. Take care. I thought maybe I should try and show you a bit of this campsite actually, because I was thinking of actually staying here. This is it. There's some lovely. Now this camper van is actually the office. You see a campsite office. I thought maybe someone's staying here, but it's not. That's a very nice little camper van there. But you see, like there's people coming here on holiday, obviously, but there's obviously look at that. There's obviously a hippie element here, and it's a kind of it seems like a kind of really free-spirited place. You can see more like the hippie type caravans. There are still a few hippies in the world, not as many as there used to be. But this lovely area was a famous campsite for many, many years. I stayed here on 2 occasions with my tent, including the summer solstice 2015, which was like a second David Icke meet-up group thing. See, look at that. And then basically the people who originally brought out the Barge and tried to turn it into an Italian restaurant, which is ridiculous. As you know, if you watch Matthew Williams' channel, they then turned this into pasture land, like for horses and things like that. Now it's back as a campsite, and I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. The Barge has virtually been restored into its original form. So I was delighted when I arrived, as you would have seen earlier, when I saw that the mural in the pool room was still there. And it is like it hasn't changed. I mean, I haven't been here during the changes. And coming back here, I wouldn't have known there had been any changes. They've restored, the new owners have really restored it to its former glory perfectly. And of course, there's the new annex there at the side, the grey building, which is only opened last year, and is now the temporary home of bases at the Barge, and hopefully will be again. Okay, they're just preparing for our lunch. We're having actually a Sunday roast, so I'm going to go back there now and have that. And I'll tell you about Julie Phelps' talk later. We've had our lunch now. We had 2 hours for lunch this time. They're just resetting the the room, because we have to keep resetting every time. We have to reset it for lunch, get the tables out, and then we have to put them away after. So that's what we're up to now. We've just got to wait now, and then Sophia Green is going to be on again. Julie Phelps was the speaker this morning, and well, Julie's an amazing lady. She's talked about a secret space program command. She'd been to this conference in Farnborough. It's like a really weird thing, like a kind of exhibition for US space defence, and she got to go to that. It was quite something. She herself has a background in the RAF. She was actually an aircraft mechanic, but she dealt with unclassified electronics. And funnily enough, even despite her trade, she was pulled out of aircraft. I'll just show you the canal, because it's really lovely here. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Despite her trade, she was pulled off her normal duty to do guard duty for a week. Like every month or so, she'd do a week of guard duty, which is like quite boring, really. She said, just standing by the gate, making sure no one gets in who's not supposed to, and things like that. And then that's lovely. That's lovely. and then she found out these were screen memories. What had actually been happening was she'd been taken to visit alien craft at a base. These were there's a Draco secret space program on Mars, and that the Rothschild they run where the officers' mess is in RAF Holton. Julie's part of the Monarch Mind Control with James Casbolt, and Sophia, of course, our speaker. It's trauma-based. Julie's had to endure some terrible things. She has still has some amnesia and things like that. But she was involved with building tunnels, and indeed the reptilians, and freeing trapped souls as well. She says it's a wonderful thing. She's working with Dr. Fleming, freeing trapped souls. And she says there are dark times ahead. That's what her remote viewing tells her, before we get freedom. And I can see that now. Yeah, that she was targeted by a psychic assassin, and she managed to kind of sweet talk him through telepathic conversations. It's like amazing, into stopping. It's really amazing. She has a lovely energy to her, actually, Julie. She really does. Very unlike a lot of Monarch victims I know of. She's quite warm, things like that. And she has kind of adopted this alien hybrid boy who's part arachnid, and arachnids are kind of spider-like aliens. But even though they look mean, most of them are really, really loving, and they're caring. But she says there's an ongoing battle at the moment out in space, on the other dimensions, between these aliens. She's working with the Monroe technique, like Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute of Remote Viewing and Out-of-Body Experiences. Very interesting talk indeed. Wouldn't it be lovely to spend eternity in a place like this? Hello there. What's your name, sir?
It's Jeff.
Jeff. We have met a few times. It's good to see you.
Yeah, we have. Nice to see you again, Ben.
What brings you to the Basis Project Conference?
Well, the conference has been action-packed because not only are you networking again with people that we all know, but also finding new information as to where we are today, and that's important.
Oh, cool. Who do you think has been the best speaker in your view? And that's tricky, I know.
I know they're all been very good, but I think the last lady that was on, and if you remember her name, can you remember her name?
Sophia Green.
Excellent, yes. I think what she's brought out today has touched a chord with every person that's here.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think the information has been out there, but it's been hidden and it's been under the water. Everything is coming to the surface, because the truth will always come to the surface. You can bury it for so long, but it will always surface. And then I think this is coming to the end of the line for the people involved with all this.
Well, you sort of anticipated my next question, which based on my own talk about how you think this is going to go. Do you feel hopeful or not? And obviously you do, and that's
more than
great.
hopeful. And I just have to mention something here, because she did mention President Trump, because I was
very glad about that. Yeah.
He's been probably the only president who has done more to try and stop this child trafficking, and with the deep underground bases than any other president. And not only that, he's the first president of the United States, and still is, for those that may doubt, because that's going to be revealed shortly, that has never taken the country to war, and he's the first praying president, which means he's a Christian.
Well, then pretty soon the usurper Joe Biden will be gone from the White House, and the real president will be back, I hope.
I think he will be, and I think it's going to happen very shortly.
Well, Jeff, thanks very much for being on Panro TV. I hope to see you at future events.
I'm sure you will.
Are you going to? What's your next plans for going to another
Well,
event?
I don't know whether the Awake and Aware conference is going on with Kerry Cassidy. I was there 2 years ago. It all depends on how this nonsense plays out much further, but it is a pantomime, and I think it has to show the people how far we've let our governments throughout the world just do what they want. So this now is coming to an end.
Great, yes. Well, I hope I will be speaking at Awake and Aware. I hope to see you there, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
You're just leaving the barge now. The barge in. After a whole weekend of this being a second home.
Why don't you wait here and I'll go and get the car?
It's been lovely.
Otherwise you'll be up to your ankles.
I just missed it. Oh, okay then. Yeah. And she's gone and say goodbye to someone else now. I know how she feels. It's a bit sad, yeah. But it's been good. Thanks, Gemma. Thank you for being a great hostess, a mistress of ceremonies.
I was.
Really appreciate.
Mistress.
Oh yeah, without the leathers. Have you enjoyed it?
Oh yeah, it's been brilliant. I mean, to get so many like-minded people together to talk about so many esoteric things in one space after the madness of the last 15 months, it's been absolutely brilliant, and to be continued. And lots of subjects were touched upon, which, if you connect the dots, lead to the fact that we should all be, experiencing ourselves as very powerful human beings, capable of anything. We shouldn't be afraid at this current point in history.
Exactly. But you've been a really asset to the conference, and you've gone down well. You're very articulate, and you've really helped organise and things like that when it's sorting out all the difficult things. So really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you hopefully at another conference very soon.
I think it's undoubtedly, whichever conferences will pop up now, there's such a thirst for alternative knowledge and alternative people to get together. Not alternative necessarily, just people that don't agree with the mainstream. And we're not all crazy or domestic terrorists or demons. We just want a different opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, and these events give us scope to discuss different ideas which are not being broadcast on mainstream or written about in mainstream newspapers, and that is great.
Exactly. I appreciate that, Gemma. I can call her that now. Yes, I can call her that now. And this is the new. We're one of the first events. This is just opened, new annex. It's actually been a good venue. It's got a bit hot in there at times, but I quite enjoyed it in there. The seats are much better than the ones at Probe. So, well, I'll tell you what, Tony, any seats are better than the one at Probe.
Oh, any seats are better than the one at Probe.
The acoustics was better.
Exactly.
And the rain is even slowing down a bit. So we're now going to go to Shea Miles, headquarters of the Bases Project. We're going to get some drinks, go to Miles' place, watch football. So, yeah.
You're going to get grounded.
Exactly, you got to be
grounded.
Well, you need to do that sometimes. I'll tell you, otherwise you burn out. Yeah, you can easily.
Away with the ferries, otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to ground yourself at times. So that's where we're going next. Guys, I'm back at Miles' place with my friends here, and we're watching the football. We're going to watch England win. Yay! We've got some drinks. It's just perfect, isn't it? Okay, the football's over. I've just finished watching it. Italy have won. They won. It was ridiculous. They won on penalties. I mean, I hate these penalty shootouts. I just hate them. And I'd say that if England won. They just won, yeah, actually. They won. Oh dear. I've been drinking myself very much. Is there some way of arranging these tournaments without these ridiculous rules? Can't we change the rules? I understand you can't have a replay for every match. I understand that. But at least for ties, you could have some kind of golden goal situation. Allow six extra subs on the bench and just play on till you get a goal. I mean, sure, these penalty shootouts, it's like tossing a bloody coin. It's just horrible.
William and Kate
What's the point? Do you know what? It's like I look at them now, and everyone is sad. Look at them. It's just the England team are like lamenting, and the Italian team are celebrating. But deep down, it's like I don't know if you agree. It's like everybody loses. Everybody loses. Oh dear. It appeared to be like a really good final at the beginning. Good match to begin with, and it just was ruined. It was ruined by these penalty shootouts. Oh dear. Anyway, that's the end of the European Cup 2021. Good morning. It's now Monday the 12th of July, the day when the government will make a decision on whether Freedom Day will be the 19th. I'll cover that later. But there was a bit of a wild party here last night from some of the delegates, and I had a bit of trouble sleeping. I think it was getting light by the time the party ended. But it's not like I've got to work today or anything, but now I'm just waiting to find out when we can go home. We have to get back to Oxford, and I'll be taking a lift with Collins, so it's coming to the end of my first conference in ages, so I don't know how I'll feel, but I'll let you know on the way home.
I'm going to leave this party sort of thing here.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to take you through my souvenirs. This is UFO Waves. I've got it from Dave Hodrian, the tactical guard game Valiant Supremacy. I'm looking forward to when this is launched. I interviewed Dave about this on a panel on radio. It's a new game. And now I've got a few cards here from people. This is from a chap called John Bernard Hine II, exotheologist, pioneer and scientist, and this is of the Universal Futures Organisation. Yeah. He's the guy I just bumped into in the bar, and this is his other card. Hine Associates. This is Normie Life here. That's his Normie Life, Hine Associates. So he was just this bloke I met in the bar. I was just waiting. He handed me his card. This is Ellis's card. A Song of Fried. Apparently Fried, I have to ask him about this. It's the Welsh version of Bridget. I didn't know that, being a Welsh guy. He's English and he did. The unfolding story of a sacred quest to rediscover and heal the long-forgotten vitality of a dynamic force of nature. The songoffried.com, Ellis Taylor. On the back it says here, before the first light of time here, a great dynamic swirling energy has been present in this wild and mysterious land. This feminine presence, venerated as a powerful divine nurturing force of nature for nearly all human history, was imagined as a weaving dragon flowing over the land. She directs the routes of great rivers like the Towy, Tavy and Cleddau and their tributaries, denotes boundaries and guides and protects every courteous traveller who keeps to the centre of her way, and every dweller who honours her. Over the past millennia, she has been forgotten and abused, not anymore. Her Thraig Fried is now restored. Please get to know her. Congratulations, you are residing on or very close to the central flow of Thraig Fried. It's been 3 years and counting, tracing the primordial energy through Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire up to Mid Ceredigion. And it's songoffried.com.org, Ellis corrects. Check out Ellis's YouTube channel, Ellis C. Taylor. That's very interesting. Now this is Julie Phelps's card. The third away group. The third apparently is a warrior, a defender. It comes from Tolkien. And there's details there, just gives you the details of Julie. The third away group is about bringing, come on, focus, the beginning of a fifth dimensional symbiotic way of living. Exploring inner space is the key to outer space, communicating and developing alliances with interdimensional beings, supporting biodiverse agriculture and local communities, clean energy, eco-housing, new ways of travel, advanced holistic healing, spiritual growth, learning and share as we grow. We shine one, we shine all. I like that. It's like where we go one, where we go all. Trust, love and integrity are the key. That's Julie's. Nice set of business cards here. I think we could even reenact a scene from American Psycho with these. Yes, very good. So those are my souvenirs. Not much, but I didn't buy anything. I just picked up these. Going to Pewsy with Tony, yeah. I'm sitting in the garden at the Bases Project headquarters. It's a very nice garden indeed. And we're going to have a little relax in the sun before we go home. Miles has a rather alluring statue in his garden, which is kind of fits. Oh yeah, it's very nice. Hey Tony, Tony's looking to give it, studying it carefully.
How well endowed she is, and it's captured my attention.
Yeah, we do think men do think about other things than football sometimes. But Tony, the football last night is. We were just talking about the football last night. It's been it was very sad. I mean, if we were just saying if England had won on the penalties, it would, well, I suppose it would be better than losing on penalties, but it would still be, as it is for Italy, a very Pyrrhic victory. What do you think of penalty shootouts, though?
I'm glad to say that because we was with a group who had been at bases all weekend, that the bases was the predominant, and the talks we'd had were the predominant thoughts in my head. And the England game, as much as I love football and wanted to see England win, was something just beyond that boundary. And, I didn't attach them in the way that I might have been if I'd have been at home or in the pub in the local.
There's a bit of a grounding exercise, I think, but I personally... there's one thing about being here is you escape the inevitable post-mortem in the sports press. It runs from established journalists in established newspapers to Twitter trolls who are hurling racial abuse at the non-white players who missed their penalties and things like that. It's basically every single kick, every single pass, every single shot, every single footstep anyone took on that pitch is now being dissected to find out where it all went wrong. As if that's possible, Tony. It's annoying, you get like...
Yeah, they won't learn from it anyway. As I said, I blame the overblown press coverage once we looked like we might win it. Up until the quarter-final, I think we've gone under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
And although the coverage was there, it wasn't over the top. And I think the players had the luxury of not being microscopically examined in the way they might have been, because people were still thinking we might go out before we got anywhere near the final. But when it looked like we were going to get to the final, then all of a sudden it was the win, we're going to win. And 1966, 1996 was wall to wall on the television and newspapers. And I heard of interview watching that in my hotel room before we went out the night before, where they're saying the players had become exposed to the over-the-top media reaction. And I think once again, that's played a big part in doing for us. I remember the 1966 World Cup, and it was just a football story. It wasn't sort of national sort of news in the way that this thing was. It was all on the back pages until we won it, and then then all hell broke loose. Don't forget the under-18s with Foden as captain. Won the World Cup, the Under-18s World Cup, because it was barely reported.
Yeah.
I think that this report is, and the way it becomes a sort of, I don't know, how do you describe it, a national obsession and something more than football, more than a game, to do with national pride and...
it was all tied in.
There's a religious element.
I noticed it was all tied in. The news stories were amazing because, like you said, it was all up on the front pages from the quarterfinals onwards, and it was tied into other stories such as the lockdown and even UFOs saying aliens please stay away. So we've got a football match to win, and it was things like that. And I found that very interesting from a ufological point of view. However, it tells how the media. I think all this hype. There was a lot of pressure put on the team. With and then when they were up on the pitch, I think basically that was a good match. There was good quality play on both sides, and it ended in this stalemate, which was broken. This draw was broken by this horrific kind of. It's not even really football. I don't think it's like tossing a coin, and I just hate it. And as I've said before, I don't know how many subs they're allowed to have on the bench in these matches, but they should increase that number and just play until they get a goal. I'd prefer that.
Well, the way the games had gone before was that we'd played a game of possession, defensive, not really venturing too much within the hour, and then we put the creative substitutes on round about the hour mark, usually from a deadlock standpoint, and then a goal would come out of that situation. It was easy to be critical of that, but while we were winning, that no one was going to criticise it. What didn't happen was we got to the hour mark, and I think the creative attacking players should have been brought on to get another goal. But because we were a goal up, I think we thought, you know, we could see it out. You can't see out a 1-goal lead in a final against a team like Italy or anybody who makes the final with that mentality. The mentality has got to be keep going for goals and get them on the back.
Yeah,
we should have had those creative players on with a good half hour to go, not in the last few minutes, hoping that it was going to change something.
Yeah, I noticed that when Italy came out at half-time, they must have been taking energy tablets. They really increased the tempo after half-time. Yeah. And
on that basis, you could say Italy did deserve to win it in the end.
Could be. I mean, I think there was some good defence by England, and I think it's quite lucky they didn't concede more goals. Actually,
almost worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
What we've been doing almost worked, but I say that point of view of instead of attacking for the last half hour, like we've done in previous matches, thinking we can go ultra defensive and then letting the side as creative until he come onto you in the way that they did. I hate to be a naysayer, but as I was saying at the time as I was watching it, if anybody scores, it's going to be Italy. There's only one team looking like scoring now for this last half hour, whereas our previous matches have been characterised by us dominating the last half hour.
Yeah. I must say, in terms of going back to the journalism, things like that, and the report and the feedback and the fallout from this, I've noticed two things have changed in the last few years. I think the professional commentary's got better. I mean, I think the absence of those two clowns, Jimmy Greaves and Emlyn-Jones, has improved at no end.
Oh, no,
you couldn't.
Don't be too hard on them. They were entertainment.
They were. Oh, they got on my nerves. It's a matter of taste. They got totally on my nerves, and they're absolutely. I mean, when they finally retired from it, I did breathe a sigh of relief. They have like people such as like Alan Shearer, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Lineker. Well, he's sort of like part of the furniture now, but Rio Ferdinand and Alan Shearer are quite good.
Rio Ferdinand with that beard is Captain Haddock, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he should have been a bit more Tintin and stuff like that. And you know, that kind of spirit would
they're more professional. They're not as flamboyant as Greaves and Hughes, but they are. And they're not. I think that makes them less irritating. They're more sort of like calm and professional. I think. However, on top of that, the improvement from the sporting side, sporting journalism side, you get this what didn't even exist in the old days, which is, of course, what existed on a small scale. That is the horrible bloody Twitterati. Oh, it's just one moment. Jane has appeared. Yes. And there's old Colin there. Tony and Colin are here, and it's starting to rain again. It's only slightly.
A few spots.
Only very slightly, yeah. It's still quite a lot of blue sky up there, so we're not going to move just yet. Yeah. Right, so Monday the 12th, and I'm heading home with Colin and Tony. Hey guys. It's been it's not only been the first conference I've been to for ages, it's actually been one of the longest. It's 3 days altogether, plus 2 days travelling. Like I say travelling, it's also meeting up beforehand and things like that. Excuse me. Oh, I'm a bit tired after last night's party. But yeah, it's been fantastic, and we're driving back here through the Vale of Pewsey. And do you have a good time, Tony and Colin?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's great. Some mind-blowing information there.
Yeah, any particular highlights for you guys?
Ben Emlyn-Jones talk. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Correct. Which began appropriately with a tribute to Ian Ukraine, who I think has influenced all of us to be at events like this.
Yeah, he certainly has, hasn't he?
Yeah, the way the geopolitical map has unfolded since has showed that Ian was on the right track.
Never be the same. Well, it's not the same without him, definitely not. How about you, Colin?
Yeah, I did enjoy Sophia Green. I think Sophia Green, is that right?
Sophia Green, indeed, yeah.
I'm not actually sure if that is her real name, but yeah, that was good because I actually met her before when Miles was doing interviews a couple of months ago, maybe now. But there was a few changes to the schedule because of various reasons, basically. But I think Sunday was more. It was changed from having a couple of pre-recorded Zoom interviews in favour of having, you know, actual people that you could interact with. So we had Julie, Sophia and Tony talking. So yeah, I did that. But it was very good to see Sophia expanding on her Saturday, which I think she had about half an hour or something, was it? So,
yeah.
But I mean, it's an interesting, you know, it's sort of one of those dark sort of stories of, you know, ritual abuse and child trafficking type things. And
what we've heard many times before. Yet another source saying the same thing.
Actually, she didn't touch too much on the alien stuff, although she did reference.
Shape-shifting came into it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she could have drilled down on many other subjects, but even though we had a reduced sort of schedule, there still wasn't enough time. We had a bit of a long, expanded lunch break.
Yeah.
But that was good in some ways, because it is very tiring at these events just to sort of maintain your concentration, and of course there is the social interaction which you can get a lot out of. So I'm actually all in favour of actually having extended breaks, and so you can chat to people. So.
Me too. The social side of it is very important,
especially on a Sunday. I mean, Friday, Saturday, but Sunday everyone's sort of flagging a bit, and obviously once we get back to the football and all that stuff, and drop people off at various places. So I think we got it down to quite a military operation yesterday. Yeah, so it was good. Other than obviously the result yesterday, but. Very much enjoyed it, Ben, and your talk was great to hear that. So, you just look forward to the next.
Look forward to the next one, yeah.
Hopefully, Kerry's one for me if that's going ahead. I don't know.
It should be, yeah. I've not heard otherwise.
I think she's waiting a bit for the social distancing announcement on Monday to be confirmed.
That's today, yeah.
Mojo's doing an announcement.
Yes.
I think he's just like a pre-confirmation on next Monday.
Yeah. He did say he had planned to do this, but of course he could say, I said one last heave. Could we have one more heave on top of that one? But we'll see how it goes. But I agree. I mean, the speakers were all excellent, very high quality, and I think St Nicholas was. I don't know. I couldn't quite gel with him. He was a strange one, but I did with all the others. Sophia, of course, new speaker, never done speech before. Very dark subject she talked about. I watched her interviews with Miles, and it's something I know exists and is going on, and by talking about it, you get to stop it. Look at this. That's I think that's the copse of trees with the little monolith in. In there is like a tiny monolith, and that represents part of Mars, according to David Percy and Mary Bennett. So that's lovely. There used to be a pathway that goes up here, but I might one day we can go up there. That'd be nice. Well, maybe when the weather's nicer, it's a lovely little spot to go to. But yeah, it's. We're going home now, back to our normal lives. Avebury, we're going close to Avebury. We're in the Avebury area now. Yeah, we're kind of right now. I must say I haven't got the post-pro blues, guys, or post-anything blues. I'm kind of I feel quite ordinary actually.
Headache.
Yeah, unlike you guys, I didn't stay up all night partying.
First viewing of Silbury Hill.
Ah, yes. Of course, according to Maria Wheatley, it actually used to be completely conical and all white. It's interesting, like listening to her and other researchers, is you are seeing these objects, these antiquities, and they look like they're irregular lumps of stone in a grass field, but they're between 4,000 or 5,000 years old, like the pyramids. I mean, they have deteriorated enormously with time. When they were first built, they were much more carefully shaped. They were much more keenly shaped, and they didn't have grass. They probably used chalk to cover the area, so you had a bright white enclosure with these very, very much more carefully shaped, sculpted stone structures. It would have been quite a sight. It's rather like the pyramids. You know, the pyramids of Egypt were originally had cladding, which was complete smooth limestone, white limestone. You can still see the remains of it on the Khafre pyramid. What you're seeing is the masonry, just the underneath lying masonry on the Great Pyramid. So when they were first built, they would have been a much more spectacular sight, and it would have been incredible. Shame there's no photographs of that. Yeah.
So on the night of a high moon would have been particularly enhancing.
Yeah. It's possible, like you wouldn't even be able to enter that area unless you're a member of the priesthood. It probably was some kind of sacred space like that. Who knows? But we're lucky to live in a country with such incredible prehistoric legacy and heritage.
We want to go in this pub here, the Wagon and Horses. It always looks nice down there. Just before you get to
the Wagon and Horses. Yeah, it does look like one of these oldie worldy places, doesn't it? Yeah. The Wagon and Horses. So yeah, we're heading home now, and I feel quite ordinary actually. You know, I mean, I've had a lovely time, but I don't. Maybe it's a sign that I've become happier as a person, and I've improved myself as a person. Possibly that's a thing. Let's give us a shot of Silbury Hill, then I'll sign off.
Spoiled by this truck.
Oh, there's a big lorry in front of us, unfortunately. Yes. So I'll just grab a shot of it from closer up when we get
near the trees.
Yeah. Funny, the Roman road.
The hill is hiding from us.
Yeah, the Roman road is just diverted slightly to. There we are. To avoid the hill. There's not many things. Roman roads wouldn't avoid many things. They're famous for being very straight. But this is the Roman road we're on now, and there it's completely straight apart from it diverting this monument. Yeah, look at that. Quite something. Quite spectacular. And it would have been completely white and come to a sharp point when it was first built. That would have been something to behold. Hey guys, I just got home. Colin dropped me off. Tony. We went. He couldn't drop me off as close to home as normal because of two reasons. First, I needed to do some shopping, which the shop I wanted to go to was a little way from home. Also, there's a LTN, local traffic neighbourhood, that the sat-navs haven't caught up with yet. Oh, I've had a wonderful time. It's been a wonderful weekend, actually. I should point out I do not have the post-pro blues at all, or the equivalent for the Bases Project conference, the post-Bases Project blues. I don't have them at all. I don't. I think maybe that's a period of my life that's now over, which is good because it's a sign that I'm a happier, healthier person than I used to be. I must say, maybe there's a negative side to that, which is I think I did have a little bit more trouble bonding than usual, which is strange for me at a conference, especially after one so long. It's not what I expected. I expected, if anything, to find bonding easier than normal, because my isolation that I've felt since the pandemic, as we've all felt. But I did find it more difficult. I mean, the reason could be there's a different social dynamic now, different group of people, things like that, which is not criticism at all. It's just simply about personalities, about which is inevitable, I think, with things like this. Possibly the pandemic actually has contributed to the negative side of that. It's possible that something has happened to us in the last 18 months that has changed us for the worst in ways that we haven't expected. And the long-term effects of that probably aren't going to be known for quite a long time. It could be that I'm the only one really affected by this and everyone else really doesn't suffer it. It could just be me. Or it could be something more fundamental has changed in our collective unconscious as a result of this. And as I said in my talk, the Illuminati manipulate collective unconscious. Things like the COVID-19 pandemic affect us in the same way that the 100th monkey thing does. Another reason, of course, is I think it's the women in ufology issue, which came up again quite significantly in my inner circle of companions during this particular conference. Like I said, I don't want to say too much right now about this. Firstly, because I've already said it in Rawcon, and later on in that video I have a rant about that. I also do in the 2018 UFO Truth Magazine conference too, where I also cover that in as much detail as I can. I'm not going to cover that in detail now. Another reason is because, as I said a bit earlier, there is going to be an organised resistance against this, and I don't want to play my cards too soon. I need to keep them, I think, for the time being, and only engage in battle when it's necessary to, when it's the right time to. But of course, biting your tongue when you've got something churning around inside your head is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do in a social situation. But sometimes it's necessary. I think that the thing about the women in ufology issue is I just can't bear it. that there are people who believe that I am part of a problem. And the reason I'm part of that problem is not because of who I am, it's because of what I am. I mean, I tick all the evil oppressor boxes: white, straight, male, etc. I'm right up there on the top of the podium of shame. And there's, well, there's nothing I do, but I wouldn't change that if I could. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of what I am. But these are the battle lines, I think, in the war against what I'm talking about, which I can't really even define. But that's where the battle lines, I think, are going to be drawn. I was going to say I can take comfort from the fact that the people who believe that I am part of a problem, actually, including maybe some people who are at this conference, I don't know, I could take comfort from the fact that it's not a real problem but a cultural Marxist hoax. But in a way, maybe that just makes it worse. I don't know. It's too early on. So for those of you who thrive on a diet of controversy, don't worry, I will return to this particular controversy. Don't you worry. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to pretty soon. As I say, in a form of planned rebellion. But this video is not for that, I don't think. Funny thing is, like when I was sleeping, or not, I was not really sleeping. Well, as you know, I hardly slept at all on Sunday night because of the partying going on at the Basis Project headquarters, which I didn't want to disturb. I wanted people who wanted to have fun. I wanted them to have fun. They're my friends. I wanted them to enjoy themselves. It's not like I had to get up for work in the morning or anything, is it? So I just lay there and sort of like tried to plug my ears up. Yeah, I'm not really a party animal. I've never been a party animal, really. At least, well, I can party to a certain extent, but you know, when it's starting to get light outside, by that time I think, you know, maybe we should just knock it on the head for tonight, guys. You know. But my friends did turn up. They did turn up later with hangovers, which I didn't share. But I wanted them to have fun, and I did go after they left. I did get a couple of hours sleep, but I had a terrible nightmare. I really did. I had a horrific nightmare, and I don't want to talk about it in detail about what it was about. But I don't often get those. But I got a really bad one. One the sort of thing that makes you scared to go to sleep again afterwards. That kind of nightmare, yeah. Although I slept all right last night. I didn't have any nightmares. But Sunday night, or should I say, early hours of Monday morning, I did not sleep at all happily, I can tell you. I don't know why that was. But I mean, so funnily enough, you know, I'm not. Although it was nice to get back to the conference, and in many ways it was a joyful experience. It was different from normal. I didn't experience the usual joy that I do when I get conference fever. And the reasons for that, I think there's many reasons for it. It's complicated, but I'm glad I went. I really am. I'm glad I've been. I don't want to be negative. I just need to be honest. And if people had told me what was going to happen, I was going to feel this way, I would still go, and I'd still look forward to it, and I still had a great time. So really great thank you to everyone involved in this. For everyone who turned up there contributed it, and I appreciate that, but especially all the speakers. They were fantastic. Miles, of course, organiser, founder of the Basis Project now, for the best, what is it now, 35 years? Thank you very much, mate, much appreciated. And of course, Gemma Cooper, our hostess, our mistress of ceremonies, brave and dedicated breakaway rebel from the horrible British brain-buggering corporation. So well done, Gemma, and thank you for being such an eloquent and such a really stylish and expert presenter for this. It really added something great to the conference. Matthew Williams, of course, the guy behind the scenes who does all the work so that we don't have to. Thank you, Matthew, for all that. I appreciate that. And his mate who was there too, I can't remember his name. Everyone at the Barge was fantastic. The Barge itself, you know, they don't half do a good private function along with everything else. The food they prepared for us, things like that. Everything was planned. Nothing was short. No one ran out of anything. So if you ever want to have a wedding reception or something like that, any kind of function at all, not just a weirdo conference like ours, I do recommend the Barge in Honey Street, Wiltshire for that. They were absolutely expert. Never failed in any way at all during that period. So thank you very much. And of course, you Hapanwo TV viewers for watching. I appreciate that. I know, I promised. I haven't forgotten, you know. You don't need to remind me. The live stream about free will. I think that'll probably come up next. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.